Yeah, so let's start with the Giants today and OTAs. We have, as you said, reporters are there today. So we got some Brian Dable quotes out there. And Daniel Jones being back at OTAs and participating is a big story. So let's start there.
Yeah, so Daniel Jones being at OTAs is a big deal for the Giants. I mean, he tore his ACL in November. He immediately began his path to recovery. And at the time, there was some conversation, will he be ready for the regular season? Will he be ready for training camp? Will he even be able to participate in any of the spring and early summer activities? Well, he's put all those questions to rest. He's had a very quick recovery. He's out there participating in 7-on-7s and 1-on-1s during OTAs, and it sounds like he's going to be medically cleared for participation by the time training camp rolls around in the end of July. So that's a big deal for Daniel Jones, a big deal for the Giants having their starting quarterback healthy and under center to open the season. They're going to have him for the regular season. Now, how does he play during the regular season? Does he make all 17 starts? Obviously, there's bigger questions at play once we get there, but right now, it is important that he is at OTAs participating because any changes that they start to make to the playbook or to the blocking scheme with their new offensive line coach, all that stuff, it's good to have your projected starting quarterback fully participating in those kind of meetings and different practices at the start of OTAs.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And we'll get more into the Daniel Jones stuff. But I want to pull up Connor Hughes is there. So I want to pull up one of his tweets talking about Brian Dable talking about Daniel Jones. I think we buried the lead here a little bit. Is my guy's looking thin? We think summer of Ozempic for Brian Dable. What's the deal?
Yeah, all the pictures that we've seen recently of Brian Dable, he's absolutely looked like he slimmed down. But one of the things that I've noticed is he slimmed down, but is still wearing his old wardrobe. Like last week, he was at rookie mini camp, and the shirt looked like it was 2 sizes too large on him. This one looks a whole lot better. So clearly, he must have seen some of the social media comments. This is a little bit more form fitting. Still not quite there, Dable, but he does like his clothing baggy. But yeah, he looks great. And I'm very happy for him. Clearly, he's been working at it. He mentioned at the end of the regular season that he was starting a diet in the offseason, and it looks like it's paid off.
Look at him. Good for him. Not quite the Ben McAdoo opening press conference baggy suit look, but I think he looks good. So good stuff, Brian Dable. But yeah, as he says, Daniel Jones is doing individual drills, routes on 7-and-7, not in the full team stuff yet, which as you mentioned, he tore his ACL. What was it, November? Right? Like we're still relatively early in the process. If he's good to go for training camp, I know you probably don't want to hear it because we're tired of talking about Daniel Jones and that year 6 leap, but getting who's supposed to be your starting quarterback back for training camp is a good thing. You don't want him missing significant time in training camp.
Nah, that's 100% right. I mean, listen, I don't necessarily have all that much excitement for Daniel Jones on the field in 2024, but kind of like I was saying, having that continuity, that chemistry built throughout the summer, and having your projected starter actually open the season as the starter, it is very important for this team. Plus, if not Daniel Jones, then who? How much confidence do we really have in Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito? I mean, obviously, I like DeVito, and I think we're going to talk about him a bit more later on in the show, but Daniel Jones is the one with the most starts under his belt, the most success under his belt. So if you are hoping to get the best 22 guys on the field for the Giants this season, I guess you have to hope that Daniel Jones is healthy and ready to go.
Is there anything that he can do in OTAs that would give you any confidence, like Jones, that is? Or are we just kind of at the point where it's like training camp and the summer can go, however we want? And, really it's just about a matter of seeing it on the field. Or would, like, if he is performing well and having a good OTAs and training camp, would that really change a whole lot of how you feel?
No, me personally, my leash is very short for Daniel Jones. The only way that he can change how I feel and instill confidence in me is to show up during the regular season and put together some solid performances. OTAs, what are you really going to learn from a player during OTAs? There's no pads on. Pads don't come on all the way until the end of July when training camp kicks off. And it's like not even the first week of training camp, it's the second week of training camp. Then we get the pads on. So anything that they're doing right now in 7-on-7s, realistically, it's stuff that a lot of us could do. Run around in our gym clothes and catch passes from one another. Obviously, these guys do it at a much higher level, but they're not doing anything game changing. They're not doing anything that should instill confidence in you. Daniel Jones throwing good passes and 7-on-7s with accuracy and velocity. It's basically him playing flag football, but he doesn't play flag football for a living. He plays professional football for a living, NFL tackle football. So what he does in OTAs is not going to translate necessarily one-to-one to the regular season field. So it's not going to give me a whole lot of confidence until I see it on the regular season field. Now, if he plays in preseason, performs well, maybe that gives me a little bit more confidence. But really, like I said, I got to see him go up against good teams and play good football. Like week 1, week 2, we've got some good opponents. Obviously, a divisional game in week 2 against Washington. The Vikings in week 1, we'll see how that goes. I guess they're a pretty favorable opponent. But if he doesn't beat up on these 2 favorable opponents to start the year, how much confidence can I really have going into the rest of the season when the schedule really ramps up and gets difficult in weeks 3 and so on? So, yeah, it's got to be the regular season for Jones, short leash this season. And my confidence is definitely wavered.
Peter from Hudson Valley says, looking like when Rex slimmed down, talking about Brian Dable, but then Rex's coaching wasn't as good. Hopefully Dable doesn't decline too, which is a real fear because if you look here, there's Rex Ryan before and after. Fat Rex, 2 AFC championship games, skinny Rex, Tim Tebow, Geno Smith, pretty rough year. So from experience of a head coach who was once overweight, slimming down, and losing all his coaching powers, I hope that isn't the case for Brian Dable here.
Yeah, and it also reminds me of when Ben McAdoo, his first season as head coach, he looked like just the most normal plain guy, just very average looking. Year 2, he comes in with a slick back, totally different facial hair, sunglasses. Looks like he thinks he's the man, and really proved not to be the man that season. Had probably one of the worst seasons that the Giants have ever had with him at head coach. So hopefully it's not the same story with Dable. I mean, Dable's potential decline. Yeah, see, he had himself a real change in appearance. I couldn't believe that with McAdoo.
So funny. Year 2 Ben McAdoo is very funny from an outsider's perspective. I'm sure going through it as a Giants fan, not so much on the funny side, but like from the suit that was 3 sizes too big to the slick back hair in year 2 after a little just playoff success in year 1, just tremendous move. I loved it.
Yeah, I'm happy you liked it. It was traumatizing for me. So
Oh goodness, but no, in all seriousness, good for Brian Dable here. But we talked about Daniel Jones in OTAs. Is there anything with the reporters there today that you want to see, or you'd be happy getting reports on this happening or not happening?
I'd like to see them how they utilize these receivers. If we can get any clarity on that, Darius Slayton is not there. He's still holding out due to his contract, so that kind of changes things. But how many deep targets is Jalen Hyatt getting? What are they doing with Malik Neighbors? Where are they moving him around to? Some stuff like that I think is important. And one of the other takeaways that I had from this morning that I think is pretty important, as like a pretty small talking point, defensive line coach Andre Patterson, previously under Wink Martindale, was exclusive to the defensive lineman. Martindale didn't allow him to coach the outside linebackers as well because Martindale had his posse, the Wilkins brothers. Those guys handled the outside linebackers. Andre Patterson, or Brian Dable today rather, said that Andre Patterson is going to be working with the outside linebackers and the defensive linemen, pretty much just handling all the pass rushers. And if you don't know about Andre Patterson, formerly with the Minnesota Vikings, defensive lineman, gets a lot of credit for developing Danielle Hunter and some other guys that the Vikings have for a long time. He ended up becoming co-defensive coordinator, assistant head coach with Minnesota. Didn't want to do a big-time job like that full-time because he had some health concerns off of the field. But as an assistant coach and as a defensive line coach, you can't find much better than Andre Patterson. He truly is one of the best in the NFL. So having him now actually working with Kayvon Thibodeau, he hasn't been working with him at all so far because Kayvon Thibodeau designated as an outside linebacker. Having Patterson working with Thibodeau, Burns, and Dexter Lawrence and these other guys, I actually think that's a pretty important talking point for the Giants, or just an important note from today's practices. Something that Alex and I on Fireside Giants, we've been saying, why is this guy not coaching Thibodeau? Why is he not helping him? So hopefully this is kind of that first step towards getting that breakout from Kayvon and maybe really forming this defensive line into a really hot commodity.